Have you ever wondered what happens when heaven itself whispers into the silence of death? When the breath that shaped the stars speaks again, not to the living, but to those the world has already said goodbye to? What if the line between life and death is thinner than we think? And what if the voice of Jesus did not simply raise bodies, but altered the very laws of existence? This is not just a miracle story. It is the revelation of a kingdom that refuses to bow to the grave. It is the story of what happens when eternity touches dust, and dust breathes again. Stay with me, because what you be about to hear may shift how you see everything, from the beating of your own heart to the wind that moves across your face. What if every breath you take is a faint echo of that same divine command? Arise. When Jesus prayed, the world trembled. Stones moved, air changed, molecules reassembled, and eyes that had dimmed in darkness flickered open once more. This was not coincidence. This was not just compassion. This was creation itself, responding to the voice that first called light out of the void. But before we reach that moment, before we see Lazarus walk from his tomb and the widow's son sit up on his bier, we must understand what was truly at stake. Because in that first century of dust and empire, death was not just an end. It was a kingdom, a power, a shadow that reigned over all living things. The Romans built their power on fear of it. The priests guarded rituals to delay it. The poor accepted it as inevitable. But then, there came a man who looked into the face of death and spoke as though he merely asleep. He was not like other healers. When he touched the sick, the fever left. When he spoke to storms, the sea grew calm. But death was something else. To command death was to declare war on the final silence of creation. And yet, Jesus did it not once, but 3 times. The story begins in a small village on the edge of Nain. The sun is setting low, the air thick with mourning. A funeral procession moves slowly down a dusty road. A mother's only son, carried on a wooden stretcher, his body wrapped, pale, motionless. The cries of the villagers echo like broken glass against the hills. And then the crowd parts. A stranger stands in their path. His eyes meet the mother's eyes that see not just grief, but eternity unfolding through it. He says only 4 words: "Do not weep." No one understands. Who dares to speak hope in a funeral? But then he steps forward, places his hand upon the bier, and time itself holds its breath. He looks to heaven, and what he says next sends shockwaves through all creation. "Young man, I say to you, arise." And before the crowd can blink, the boy moves. His chest rises. His fingers tremble. Gasps ripple through the crowd as his eyes open alive. The mother screams, dropping to her knees. The villagers fall back, some in terror, some in awe. Jesus takes the boy by the hand and lifts him to his feet. The one who was gone is alive again. But that miracle, astonishing as it was only the beginning. Because from that moment, whispers began to spread through Judea. Who is this man who speaks to the dead? The priests grew uneasy. The scholars murmured in confusion. Even the wind seemed to carry his name differently, like the earth itself was beginning to recognize its true master. But this was only the first thread in a tapestry of divine defiance. What came next would challenge not just the laws of death, but the faith of the living. In another place, a man named Jairus, a ruler of the synagogue, runs through the streets of Capernaum. His daughter, his only child, lies dying. He falls at Jesus' feet, begging, "Come and lay your hands on her, that she may be healed." But before they reach his house, a messenger arrives, breathless, pale. "Your daughter is dead. Do not trouble the teacher." The words fall like stones. Death has spoken, final and cold. But Jesus looks at Jairus and says quietly, "Do not be afraid. Only believe." When they arrive, mourners fill the room. The sound of weeping floods the rooms. Jesus enters and says something that makes them laugh in disbelief. "Why do you weep?" The child Imagine the boldness of that word. To call death merely sleep is to claim power over it. It is to say, I can wake what you have buried. He takes 3 of his disciples and the parents inside. The air is still. The child lies motionless, surrounded by the scent of oils and linen. Jesus takes her hand small, lifeless, soft. His voice is barely a whisper. Talitha cum, little girl, arise. Her fingers move, her chest rises, her eyes open wide, filled with light. She sits up. The room fills with gasps, cries, laughter life returning, where death had already closed its grip. But even this miracle, even this breathtaking moment of resurrection, was not the end. It was the preparation for something far greater, far darker, and far more impossible. Because soon, Jesus would stand before a tomb sealed by a stone. Inside, a man named Lazarus, his friend, had been dead 4 days. Not minutes, not hours, 4 days. The stench of death filled the cave. The air was heavy with grief. Even the earth around the tomb seemed unwilling to move. Martha said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. And Jesus replied with a mystery that no one yet understood. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. What he said next would shake the entire world. Take away the stone. The people gasped. Martha protested, Lord, by this time he stinks. But Jesus only looked toward heaven and prayed. Not the kind of prayer that pleads, but one that commands. Father, I thank you that you have heard me. And then silence. The kind of silence before lightning strikes. The kind that makes the heart stop beating for a moment. Jesus stands before the darkness of the tomb and shouts, Lazarus, come forth. The ground trembles. The stone vibrates. And then from the shadows a figure moves. Wrapped in grave clothes, face still bound, Lazarus steps into the light. The impossible has become real. The finality of death has been undone. The crowd falls to their knees. Some weep, some flee, others stare in disbelief. Jesus says, unbind him and let him go. And with that command, that script is broken once again. But the next part will surprise you even more, because this miracle, the raising of Lazarus, did not just show Jesus' power over death. It triggered a storm in the spiritual realm. Heaven rejoiced, but hell trembled. The priests, the rulers, the jealous hearts, they saw not resurrection, but rebellion. And they began to plot the death of the one who had defied the grave. Yet here lies the hidden mystery. Jesus was never fighting to avoid death. He was walking toward it, step by step, knowing that one final prayer would shake the universe. The power that called Lazarus from the tomb was the same power that would one day raise Christ himself. The story only grows deeper from here, because what happened next reveals the cosmic pattern, the divine secret that life and death are not enemies, but instruments in the hands of the Eternal One. Jesus was not shown as a single miracle. He was unveiling a truth written into the fabric of creation itself. That where the Spirit of God breathes, nothing truly dies. And when we understand this, we look at these miracles not just as historical moments, but as living symbols, a door opens to something far greater, something that still calls to us today.